the cotton fields of San Joaquin Valley, Fresno area, I was a very quiet kid. I liked my favorite time, of course, was recess or anything that any other kid like nowadays. But nowadays, it's a computer age. Even us, like the older folks, like the computer stuff. But basically, Tommie Smith was like any other kid, much quieter, and didn't do a whole lot of worry about the next test I was going to have, because I was a good academic student in high school because of my study habits at home. I had bad habits because I didn't understand the courses, because I didn't have the tutoring that sometimes kids need tutoring. I had the non-secular background. That was great, going to church and Sunday school, BYPU, and all these things. But in terms of the academics, no, I was more tuned into work and to the labor of finances, because that's what I grew up into, as farm labor. But above it all, really no great difference for me than any other kid, in terms of him trying to become something but didn't know how. So I just kept working. Very meticulously defined. Work, prepare for the future. You have to have certain things, and that meant more hours in the cotton fields. Well, education, you stay in school regardless. If Tommie Smith or John Carlos can stay in school and stay under the pressures of what was needed to survive, school is number one. Because without an education, you're not going to go very far. That's the way the system is set up. It's being a caricature of education. You almost have to be it to be in it. And that's why I became a teacher, because I wanted to make sure as possible that the younger generation knew that they are somebody. They have to prove to be a greater somebody by the necessity of education. There's no other definition of future unless you have the necessary educational background to procure what's needed to move on, to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Learning itself, understanding the necessity of having to learn, or the necessity of being bored, because there are times when you don't want to study, you don't want to go to class, but that's the time you go, because kids think basically the same. Don't go because they want to hang out with the bigger group. That's the time when you think it's necessary to go, because the others are not. That's the best way to get ahead when no one else is doing that work, or having that type of ability to be sustainable in work. You have to work, go to school, and basically for me, that's how it is. Every kid is going to have the itch to do nothing, or with the computer technology is now, to be on a monitor somewhere. But reading is also a necessity, not just letting the button do your job, but the brain also has to be nurtured to the point where sometimes you might not need the computer to do necessary work like in the old days. But I push education very hard.
Well, with young athletes, man, you just want to let them know that athletics is just a stepping stone to life. As Mr. Smith alluded to earlier, that education is the key to success. I mean, you can have all the athletic abilities in the world, but we could wake up one day with a broke leg. Then where do you go? So our thing is to make kids understand that you have to be forthright with yourself. You owe it to yourself to go to school and be serious about getting an education, because wherever God takes you, you have to be prepared. You never know where you're going to go in life. All you can do is be prepared. Whether you have poor communication skills, you realize that I have to work on my communication skills. If you're a bad reader, go to the library and learn how to read. You have to push yourself to achieve these goals. How do I have this desire? Because I was one of those kids when I came through. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, and had no need to learn how to read and write, because I never saw anyone succeeded in my community. I never saw the bank president in my community, or the president of Xerox, or anyone that worked for the federal government in my community. So when I became an athlete and started to realize that there was a world outside of my immediate community, then I started thinking, say, man, if you're an athlete, people are going to start to listen to you. What are you going to have to say? If you go on a radio show and somebody write a note and slide it across the table, can you read it? These are things that that I had to work on because I felt like God put me on the road to be someone one day. And I couldn't be a half a person, I had to be a whole person. And this is what I try and illustrate to young kids today. Be all you can be. You ever call my office, that's what you're gonna hear on my phone. That the key to success is education. You have to have a foundation in order for you to climb. What athletes, in my opinion, is carrying that message today? I would say Magic Johnson is one. Kevin Johnson is another one.
Dr. J has always done it.
Dr. J, yeah, Dr. J. Emmitt Smith with the Dallas Cowboys.
Very much so.
It's a number of athletes out there doing it. Now, relative as to whether they do it on a 24-hour basis or whether they do it in a pitch, the bottom line is they are doing it. I just wish that it would be more athletes that would step up to the plate, because this is a big fight that we have. Illiteracy is a big problem that we have still here in the United States. That's like cancer, and we need to wipe that out. You know, ignorance is the thing that creates a lot of social problems that we have in society as well.
Like anything that grows, there's differences arise because of that growth. Some grow faster than others, some grow slower, and there's some that don't grow at all. So it's like a race of any type. John Carlos and Tommie Smith are very competitive. And even in our thought process, basic same thing. When you are competitive and when you want to stay with the fact that life is worth living, one must continue to work very hard to make that a reality. And in doing so, you're going to have friction. You're not going to go any place unless you have differences. Otherwise, that means you're not moving. So I tell all the young kids, don't be afraid to communicate. No one will ever know what's on your mind unless you let them know verbally yourself. So your own process can be understood by others. All your young folks, communicate. Don't be quiet because you think whatever you have to say is stupid. The only thing stupid about that is not saying anything you think is worth saying. Sitting on it is never going to procure anything but ignorance because you didn't ask the question. There's no such thing as a stupid question, students. Ask the question. If you're ashamed to ask the question, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I wonder if I don't ask this question, what's going to happen to me in 10 years if I continue to be quiet. Live an example. A very quiet kid, and I knew I left a lot on the table because I did not reach down to pick it up because I was afraid. Now I'm talking about reaching down with the mind, with the brain, with the education, with the knowledge I needed to move on, get off that table. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to get in conversation. Don't be afraid that you're the only one that's being heard by ears which you might not want people to hear. Do it anyway. You don't have to resort to violence to be heard.
Yeah, the only dumb question is no question.
Thank you very much.